Hello and welcome back, and today we want to continue looking at the brand new QNAP NAS and Switch combo device for surveillance and general VM and office deployment. This is the QGD-3014-16PT from QNAP. Again, absolutely hate that name, even if I do love the product, and I'm not going to be calling that throughout the video. Maybe I'll just call it the QGD. This is part one of a four-part series of videos where we're going to take a deep dive into this device. Part one, in today's video, we're going to be looking at QTS running on this device, the advantages, disadvantages, what you can do, and just generally QTS running on this system. And the next video, we're going to be looking at QVR Pro, where we look at the surveillance side of things on this, utilizing the desktop, looking at cameras, event management, configuration, and of course, looking at all the different cameras. There's me in the background there, wave my hands in the air like I just don't care. And we're going to be looking at, in the next video, all of the surveillance side of things. The third video we're going to be looking at QNAP+Switch, where we look at the switch management side of that. We're going to touch on that a little in today's video. And of course, in the last video, the one I'm the most excited about is taking advantage of the HDMI output of this device and running a KVM setup. We're going to run a monitor, a keyboard and a mouse and show the system being utilized in a standalone capacity while it can still be accessed via the network and the internet. One of the main reasons a lot of people look at NAS is with an HDMI out. But before we go any further, you may have noticed right here at the intro to part one in this series, a slight hush, it's kind of humming, loud, a little fuzz there in the background. That is because the laptop we're utilizing to record this needed some serious hardware behind it, mainly for the recording of all of those cameras. The result is that the GPU fan on this laptop is going to ramp up, and it's very hard to be able to control a laptop. As you can see there, the image on screen with the microphone there in front of me that I'm going to point at, and hopefully the other camera will catch up. It's quite a high frame rate, that one. As you can see, that mic there has got the laptop relatively close. If we bring that into shot, you'll see what I mean there. And the result is that you are going to pick up that fan noise there in the background. So I'm going to try and edit that out as much as possible. But that, along with building work in the building, has made this an absolute perfect storm of noise. But that's enough of the disclaimers. Let's get straight into this with QTS. So this system is utilizing QTS currently. On this system alone, I'm using version 4.5.1. And there may have been an update since the last time you saw this. It's also utilizing 8 gig of memory, which is the system default, and that lovely little Celeron processor that we've been talking about all the way through 2020 into 2021. Now, one of the first things that strikes you about this NAS combo system is because it's two systems combined into one, you sort of expect there to be compromise. You always think half of it is going to be a bit tapped out. Maybe you'll have a lesser hardware or software support on the NAS side. Maybe the switch will be 3/4 of a normal switch. And in reality, this NAS is very, very comparable to that of SMB and mid-range NASs from QNAP in the 53D and the 73A series as well. You're utilizing a 64-bit 86X processor there. And on top of that, with that 8 gig of memory arrived with by default, things like virtualization, multimedia utilization, and more are all very available straight off the bat. The Application Center has the full range of applications from QTS. There's nothing missing here. Everything from their QWAN supported improvements, taking advantage of SD-WAN multi-site environments, obviously that of QVR Pro and the surveillance stuff that we'll touch on, as well as USB cam as well, where you can attach USB cams to the NAS. And again, we will touch on that later on. We are using USB cameras as well as IP cameras there. On top of that, you have got the QMAGI application with that AI core running beautifully there. And you've got Ubuntu Linux deployment there, where you can run a VM of the latest version. I believe it goes up to version 20 currently. I think it's 20 LTS there. If we let that open there in the background, we've not ran a Linux VM on this, but you can see in one click you can get that running, no extra payment, just boom, get that VM up and running all the way from 16 to version 20 of Ubuntu. On top of that, you of course have Virtualization Station, which allows you to run VMs, and as you can see at the moment, we haven't ran it, but let's run that in the background. And what that will do is that's setting up VMware to be used on this system very quickly and very easily to run everything from a Windows VM that can be installed in 3 clicks by downloading a VM directly from within the application, as well as running multiple smaller VMs. Talking of smaller virtual environments, of course you have Container Station. Container Station is an application that I do think gets overlooked, not just by myself, but by a bunch of other people as well. And in Container Station, you do have the ability to run micro environments. The equivalent of, instead of having a whole OS to run an application, you can just run the application in a small contained sandbox environment. And again, we can go ahead and install that there. A lot of these resources may be used and shared across the system, so do bear that in mind. And memory sharing is supported on this device as well, so let that install in the background. Now, we have installed a number of key applications, some of which we are going to go into in a little bit more depth. I haven't installed Plex Media Server on this device, although it does most certainly support Plex Media Server. We have already ran testing on QNAP and this NAS. Not so much this NAS, but this NAS CPU with Plex, and it does run Plex very well indeed, with some very low level 4K being transcoded and pretty much everything HD that we threw at it being transcoded. I mentioned before about QMAGI. It is part of a larger range of multimedia applications spanning photos. In Photo Station, you have Video Station, Music Station, and QMAGI, each of which have advantages of either scraping metadata or the AI-powered facial and thing recognition that's built into QMAGI. And again, I'm not going to go into each of these apps because pretty much all of them are supported to a wider degree on all NAS systems, and I have already made dedicated videos on all of those apps, both the mobile clients and the desktop clients. Just check them out in my video library. Now, QVR Face is something that I should really install, because I'm curious if this system even has the horsepower to run QVR Face. QVR Face, for those that aren't aware, is an application that uses facial recognition in surveillance. But I'm willing to bet this system just will not have the necessary oomph to run that. You can hear the fan on this laptop starting to ramp up there in the background. But again, I do think this system, you're going to need at least an i3 or a Pentium at the very least to take advantage of real-time facial recognition in surveillance. You are talking NVR-based deep video analysis. So again, the fact this isn't letting me install that app, I think almost certainly is going to be a problem there because of the hardware inside. But moving forward, we can look at some of the other applications. Things like Wireless AP Station are here to allow you to turn the NAS and Switch combo device into a Wi-Fi hotspot, but it's worth mentioning this system does not support that of a PCIe equipped installation card like the Wi-Fi 6 stuff, but you can use USB dongles. We can see QVR Face has kicked in there in the background, largely because it was at the back of a queue behind VM Station there and Container Station. Let's go back to those for a second. This is kind of an interesting side of things, and again, I don't really go on enough detail, I think, on these for a lot of people's appetite. I do think on a device like this, where this is meant to be a contained solution for business collaboration, multimedia sharing, file sharing, surveillance, virtual machines, and networking, it's all in a single solution here, which I know a number of you are less keen on for the PSU side of things. But, you know, installing UPS, you can see advantages. So, Container Station first. When you go on Container Station, this is where you would run, rather than an app in an OS, you can run just the app. There's an enormous library of containers out there. You can search just these giant libraries online where you can go to the likes of GitHub and more to have VMs that you can run very, very quickly. So if we go to some of the options, there's lots of stores out there that you can download containers for or create them, on your own creative space, if you will. Loads of apps available. And again, the community behind containers is huge. And you can run a number of key applications on the NAS, such as Plex Media Server, but definitely more business and analytical based applications in this far smaller form on the NAS as a container. I'm not going to say the installation and utility is as user-friendly as what you find on the NAS generally, and a number of these applications certainly lack the lovely polished graphical user interface GUI that one might like on applications to make them more chewable and friendly, but there's still lots of things you can do there with all of these apps being installed within about 2 to 3 clicks. Now, Virtualization Station is very much a different kettle of fish. This is where we see a lot of the bigger, large-scale installation of VMs. Now, this can be broken down into 3 groups, I find. Firstly, there is utilizing third-party kind of enterprise-led VMs where the NAS is more about just traditional storage. You're talking about VMware, Hyper-V, stuff like that, and you can import these quite easily onto the NAS or just use the NAS to run virtualized backup. They do have a VM targeted synchronization and backup tool. Let's find it there. I believe it's known as Hypervisor. I imagine Hyperdata Protector even. And this allows you to synchronize your storage with those VMware and Hyper-V environments very, very easily there. And again, that's a much bigger topic than today's video, but I'm still going to install it in. Maybe we can tack that on to one of the later videos there. The second way you can handle virtual environments on this device is importing your own VM. So whether you use some of the VM backup tools out there or converting your own OS that you're utilizing, I'm on a Windows system for example, turn that into a VM and then upload it onto the NAS for experimentation, firmware updates, or just so you can have a single port that you can do all of your work on remotely or locally, or run it via the KVM set up on this NAS. There's a lot you can do there. The third kind of primary way to take advantage of Virtualization Station, and this is definitely for those that have never really tried VMs before, is to go to the free VM section. That's right, built into Virtualization Station, I've mentioned this before, you can just straight away select a version of Windows from 7 to 8.1 and 10, select it and download it and install the VM. And it will just immediately have a VM to run. You can run a VM from this system in about 5 clicks. And I'm being generous there because I think it's more like 3. You can configure the VMs, assign more CPU or memory utilization to them. You can scale them accordingly for storage and power and run multiple VMs at once. And again, create restoration points, import already backed up VMs, which is something we've done in the past before with a USB backup that we run. And you can make sure that only certain people have access to VMs or create dedicated user accounts for this QNAP NAS for those VMs. You can even go to a more extended VM marketplace where you have the likes of pfSense and Zabbix, where these are when you're looking at better analytically controlled network environments, or that open source firewall software that is pfSense that can run not only in this sense of virtual machine utilization, but there's also a dedicated VM management tool built into the switch side that we will talk in a little bit more detail about in our next video when we talk about the switch side of this device that allows you to take advantage of more router and switch based VMs on this system. Now, there are more applications that we can talk about for business. You may have noticed with this video, I've erred away from home user applications. I don't think this device is really a home user device, even if it does seem to be 4/6 bay, if you include the SSDs. NAS device that has a switch bolted on. I still think it's slightly outside of the home buyer bracket, and if a home buyer is looking at spending £600 to £800, that's when they start looking at Pentium and i3 NASes there in the early stages, 4s and 6 bays. But there's still lots of applications here for both business and the home. If you are a home user, for example, and you are looking at files on this device in File Station, you have the Word add-on here. I don't know if you've noticed this. I say Word, it's more Office 365. The ability to go into your storage on this device and from there open Word, Excel, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word documents, PowerPoint presentation, that sort of thing, because the QNAP system can have an add-on for free put on that allows you to open these in your web browser using Office 365. So again, no need to leave the system. you could do the whole thing via the network rather than the internet too. On top of that, you have support of cloud gateways as well. This is something we've talked about a lot in 2020 and 2021. Hybrid mount, the ability to bolt on cloud storage, or vice versa with virtual Jbod. We'll talk about that in a little bit more next time. The ability to create this hybrid cloud system, and again, I'm just going to flick through their little guide there, but ultimately what that is saying is the ability to add a cloud storage area with the appearance of localization. You can just bolt on an area of cloud storage, Dropbox, Google, OneDrive and more, or you can use a larger area storage, ASW, blob storage. There we go. You can create that cloud drive synchronization there. And again, lots of services supported there to bolt on that storage. Now, bear in mind, of course, what we're saying here is the idea of bolting on cloud storage that is running parallel to the NAS, but with the NAS being able to use all of its applications and services on that area of storage. That is the cloud gateway in a nutshell. However, it's not to be mixed up with hybrid backup sync. Hybrid backup sync is the ability to create a multi-tiered backup solution that allows you to back up from NAS to the cloud, NAS to NAS, NAS to USB, and much, much more. You can create whole synchronized tasks and jobs throughout the whole system to make sure that you never lose data in the future. Even looking at this list, this is the ability to bolt on areas of storage like the cloud. So if we go for a synchronization that's a two-way synchronization job, you can go ahead and synchronize with all of those self-same platforms and more. Remember, this is not about bolting on that storage, but to allow both of these to either back up or synchronize together to ensure that your data is kept as safe as possible. Whereas the other side with hybrid mount is the ability to use available storage or available data from another location and attach it to the NAS for live cached background synchronization made very, very easily and and create that multi-tiered storage approach to leverage the advantages of each to make up for each of the individual weaknesses of the others. So again, hybrid mount, lots of advantageous utilization there, but as already touched on, you've also got virtual Jbod, with virtual Jbod giving you the ability to take areas of available storage on a NAS and make it available to others. And again, it's more than that. The ability to add that storage to cloud storage as well. Again, blob storage in general, large-scale storage, and create in reverse what we just talked about with hybrid mount, but with a far more enterprise bent. And if you have additional NAS space in multiple locations, or one giant NAS that you want to allow multiple storage LUNs to be shared to other services and platforms, this is exactly how you go about doing it. It's a very detailed platform. There is that VM installer that we talked about earlier on that allows you to add storage to the switch side of things and install arguably macro installation environments. Again, it does not match the NAS model. It's my own fault for playing around with some of the settings there. I'll take care of that in the background. Moving forward, we can look at some of the other bits and bobs. Just scaling through them, really, everything from the SSD profiling tool that allows you to take advantage of SSD caching to the highest regard and choosing the right SSDs and the right way to set those up for your storage. Then you've got the likes of QObjects, and again, that carries on with a lot of that cloud gateway support between some of those big OpenStack storage areas there. That's, again, advantageous to many. Moving forward from that, you've got lots of those QVR applications and services, everything from failure protection to improved enterprise services. But it is worth touching on in a later video. We will be looking at the difference between QVR Pro and QVR Elite. Elite generally being more widely available on the QTS Hero ZFS platform. There are advantages and disadvantages to each, and it is worth exploring that, but I think it's better to explore that on a QUTS platform in the future. Then you've got support of QVPN services that allow you to integrate either QNAP's own or third-party VM services to your NAS to make sure that your data transmissions are as safe as possible. You've got file management and file category collective applications in the form of QSearch and QFiling as well that allow you to create a far more bespoke and tailored storage environment for archiving and live access, while at the same time having an intelligently managed system search tool, almost Google level quality built into the internals of your NAS. What I'm saying is the application side of things on the QGD-3014 is not one of compromise. Again, I went into this thinking, what have they had to remove to keep this thing afloat? What have they had to do? What have they had to remove from the NAS to facilitate that switch? And the simple answer is nothing. Maybe a PCIe slot, that's about it. I haven't even touched on things like BoxSafe, where you can integrate G Suite and Office 365 with all of the account services, control and mail management, and be able to have a localized version of all of that data. So in the event of your internet you have a severed internet connection, or there's severed connectivity to the likes of G Suite and Office 365, you can still integrate with all of your data across all of your systems via the NAS, and when the connection is re-established, the NAS will simply re-establish that connection in the background and make sure all of the data and all of the decisions and everything that's been done in the meantime is then reflected on the Google account. It's ultimately a cached, centralized storage area, so everyone connecting to the emails, the accounts, all of those G Suite and Office 365 services do not notice a severed connection. There's even advantages for the system in terms of that internet and storage archiving across multiple platforms, all built into the system. But I think I'm going to wrap things up there. I do think this is a system worthy of your time. I recommend you wait until all 4 parts of this video are complete, because we will be talking about all of the very specific areas of coverage on this device. And of course, in our next video, we will be looking more at QVR Pro and all of those cameras. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, do click like. If you want to learn more and stay tuned for those other videos, click subscribe. You can see there the events notification on the right. But other than that, I will see you guys next time.